for the GFS model. This is what the GFS model is saying for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to use the GFS model today, but maybe another day I'll use the European model or the European AI or the Canadian. Probably not the Canadian, it sucks. But yeah, I'm using GFS for today only because it has the longest runtime on it, the longest hours out, 384, which is 2 weeks. This is right now, so this is 0 hours out. These are the heights that I'm looking at right now. What we see is a trough over Alaska and a ridge in the west, so that's going to be a positive PNA. And we see this mini trough developing in the east, and that's going to be our cool down. That's coming in the next few days. We also have a ridge over Greenland. It's not as strong as it was before. You can see, I'll go back a couple 66 hours ago. Was stronger ridge, but still strong ridge over Greenland. That's a negative NAO and also blocking high. But this trough and ridge pattern in Alaska and the western U.S. is really going to encourage some cooler air, not cold air, but cooler air into the eastern states, especially the northeast. So that's our cool down in the east. It's also assisted by this negative NAO that's been persistent for a while now. Actually, I don't know when we were last in a positive NAO, but I know the polar vortex is extremely weak, so that's also assisting in this eastern cool down. By the way, this is Hurricane Milton in the Gulf. This is not some random massive trough in the Gulf of Mexico. So I just want, in case you're confused about that, why the heights are so low here, that's actually because of Hurricane Milton. That's not some massive trough. That's Wednesday. And as we move into Thursday, the cool down kind of moves on out. And by this time, there's probably still some cold trying to hang on the East Coast, if I had to guess. However, most of the U.S. is going to be above normal. There's really no trough or ridge over Alaska that's neutral. So we have neutral conditions on the East Coast, and that's probably going to lead to maybe slightly above or slightly below normal, depending on exactly where you are in terms of temperatures. But most of the U.S. is ridging, especially across the central states. I expect most of the warmest air to be focused over the central states, but I think most of the U.S. at this point will be above normal. However, as we move into the weekend, we see this deepening trough over Alaska. That's a very strong signal for positive PNA. We have this ridge building across Western Canada, and that's a very strong signal for a cool down in the east, and that's exactly what we're going to get if we move forward a little bit here on the GFS model. We get, and this also the Euro agrees with this, the European AI agrees with this. So this is likely to happen. Maybe it's too strong in the GFS, but we do have this significant cool down in the GFS model. We have this ridge. The ridge is mainly central, although it was western and it kind of moves east a little bit, but it's a central ridge mainly, I would say. We also have a ridge in the west, and that's encouraging all that cold air to dive eastward. Significant cool down. Snow for mountainous New England likely if there's precipitation. Maybe even for Appalachia, northern Appalachia. So that would be significant. That tries to hang around for a little while. We start getting this ridge over Alaska and this trough. Maybe not. It's kind of a ridge over Alaska, kind of neutral, but a ridge starting to try to develop. And this trough in the Pacific Northwest, and that's encouraging that ridge to kind of move eastward. So then that cool down moves out, and we get this ridge in the east. So we have this ridge in the east. Kind of the opposite pattern of what we've been seeing. Ridge in the east. Not exactly a trough in the west, more of a trough in central states. But the west, I think, would be slightly cooler than the east in terms of averages. I still think that, especially the southwest, is going to be above average. But maybe the Pacific Northwest would be average or below average. Something that they have not seen in a while with this pattern. So as we move into Saturday, we have this persistent ridge in the east. Obviously, we still have, most of the U.S. at this point is ridging. However, the strongest ridge is in the east. And a lot of that, I think, is due to this positive NAO up here. You have lower than average heights over Greenland, and that's a positive NAO, which is encouraging warmer air in the east. It doesn't necessarily have an effect on the west as much. I think the west actually benefits from a positive NAO. That's where you're seeing this trough in the Pacific Northwest. So I think the west gets warmer as we go. I think the pattern flips after this cool down. Go back to that, and 18th, I think the pattern will flip, and we'll start to see cooler air trying to enter the west more than the east. So that's the end of the GFS. However, another thing to note is we do have this ridge building in the Pacific Northwest. So we have this pattern flip. I'll go back after the 15th, but then we get another what looks to be a pattern flip to me, and that's this ridge building in southwestern Canada, and that I think this is going to become another cool down in the east. So we get a bit of a pattern flip for the west. So you guys may be seeing average, maybe slightly below average temperature, especially in the Pacific Northwest. But I think that'll change fairly quickly. So that's the heights. In terms of precipitation, see right now this is Milton. Obviously, this pressure, I'm not really sure where it's getting that from. It's about 100 millibars lower than that, but that's Milton in the Gulf. A lot of tropical moisture. Obviously, it's going to do its thing. We see rainfall for the Pacific Northwest, potentially Seattle. This is something that the National Hurricane Center has flagged as a 10% probability of development. It might not develop. I don't really know. It looks unlikely at this point. And it also wouldn't really do much. Maybe it would cause some more flooding for Bermuda. It could cause flooding for Bermuda, or maybe I should say more flooding for Florida. Although even that looks unlikely on this model. So it might just be another fish storm. I don't really know, but the NHC, I should say, has flagged this potential for development. Anyway, you see Milton comes on through. This is a more north solution. The GFS has been showing a more northern landfall, obviously bringing devastating impacts for Florida as we expect. In terms of other things that are going on, this is the cool down in the east. You ridge over central, and then you get this deepening trough. It's still rain showers in mountainous New England. However, if I move it forward a little bit, wait, hold on. I have the wrong thing. It doesn't show any snow, but anyway, as you move the hours forward, you start to see more snowfall in mountainous New England. Sorry, that's my fault. I had the thing that's just precipitation, so it doesn't show snow, and then this one actually shows snow or rain. That's why I was showing only rain, but GFS has been showing a potential for a light coating of snow in mountainous New England, likely above 3,500 feet, or maybe there'll be some snow in at like 3,000 to 2,000 feet, but I don't think any accumulation will occur at that level. So areas like that are valleys or low elevation, even if you're in New Hampshire, Vermont, you shouldn't be worried if you're in like mountainous areas. So it's not going to be for most people. Milton moves on out. We have this system that moves on from Canada, and it kind of it might bring some rain for portions of northern New England, some snow for Canada. That's interesting that it's showing that. It's not that unusual for this time of year actually. For this area to Canada to get snow. However, it is interesting still. We have this, what I believe is Clipper system developing in the northern tier of the U.S. Snow for Canada, but mostly rain for the continental U.S. And then that kind of moves on through with our second cool down, and it's been showing some system preluding the second cool down for a while now. It's kind of flip-flopped on who gets snow and how much snow, but it is showing some snow for the Great Lakes region potentially and mountainous New England again. And then after this, we would get our second cool down in the east. We see snow for Maine and northern New England again. That would be interesting if it did verify. I'm not sure it will, though. We see rainfall for the Four Corner states. And we also see snow in coastal, sorry, I'm getting the geography wrong, southwestern Canada, rain in the Pacific Northwest. It's more rain in the Pacific Northwest, but it's really a dry pattern in the U.S., I'm not going to lie. Not too much going on, except for this low pressure system. That's bringing some snow showers to northern New England, some rain showers. Could be thunderstorms, not really sure. I'm not really sure which ones of these are thunderstorms, to be honest. But yeah, we see this. Now, this is definitely a band of thunderstorms. This starts to develop, and I don't think this is going to be severe. I think it's too late in the season, to be honest with you. But it might be. I mean, it's way too far out to know, honestly. But this band of showers and probably some embedded thunderstorms moves eastward, and it kind of breaks apart as it reaches the Appalachian Mountains. Thing to note: pretty significant snowstorm again. In the and rainstorm too in the Pacific Northwest and southwestern Canada. That system kind of moves on out, and now we're starting to get into our later hours of the run. Snow in Idaho, maybe some in northwestern Washington. But at this point, honestly, I would not trust any of this to verify. It's impossible for the models to predict this far out. But it's a possibility. All of this stuff is a possibility. We have rainfall for the southeast, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Southern Virginia, and that moves on. That moves north. Maybe some flooding even for far eastern North Carolina. That could be a possibility here. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of the run. We do get this system in the southeastern part of Canada and into the northeastern, maybe not northeastern, but like more northern part of Canada. And that is also another prelude to another cool down that looks like it's coming in the east. So it's honestly a pretty dry pattern. The only thing I think to note of all this is Milton, obviously, and then we do get a potential for that could be a severe weather event, although it's too far out to tell, and we do get some significant snowstorms in the Pacific Northwest and southwestern Canada. And we also got some cool downs in the east, but it's not like anything significant happened. We're not in severe weather season. We're not really in snow season yet, unless you're in like a mountainous area. We're still in hurricane season. That's why we're seeing Milton. So this is actually, I think, one of the less exciting times to be weather enthusiasts because there isn't much going on. But that's not to say there's nothing going on. In terms of temperature pattern, is the last thing I'll do. It's 12 hours out, so we see far above normal temperatures in the west. It's below normal to normal. Now you see these blobs of warmth, and those are actually cities. These are pretty much all cities. So I believe that's St. Louis. That's Nashville. I think I might be getting these cities wrong. Pretty sure it's Indianapolis. So those blobs of warmth are all cities, and that's due to that urban heat island effect. Although I will say, I do have a theory that the GFS model cannot compensate or adjust for the urban heat island effect, and kind of thinks it's the same as all other places, because it makes no sense that the cities are always warmer anomaly wise. So the cities are always warmer in terms of just absolute temperature because of the urban heat island effect. However, they are not always warmer in terms of anomaly. Anomaly really has nothing to do with the average temperature. Like the average temperature right here, this is Sierra Nevada, is much lower than right here in Florida, right? But the anomaly is higher. So the anomaly really has nothing to do with the actual temperature. The anomalies on the GFS are almost always higher in the cities, I feel like. So I don't know, that's a theory they've had. It's probably wrong, but that's one theory they've had. But anyway, we see cooler than average conditions persistent in the east, and then we get this cool down mainly in the northeast. Nothing too major. I mean, maybe some snow showers, like I said, but this really isn't a major cool down. You get this massive warm up, maybe even heat wave, you could call it. Probably not, but very significant over average temperature. I believe this is like 12 to 18 degrees below average, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, above average. It's 12 to 18 degrees above average, I should say, if I'm not mistaken. So far above average temperatures in the central states. You're starting to see some cooler air trying to make its way into the Pacific Northwest. However, this is where we get our second mini cool down in the east. However, it doesn't hang around for too long. And this would actually be more significant than the first one. That's why I'm calling it a second one. And then that kind of moves on out. And we still have this like cold trying to hang on in the East Coast. Warm in the central states. Warm in the west. But it's not as bad in the Pacific Northwest. The pattern stays fairly similar. We do have this cold air in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And then this is where we start to get our second cool down. That moves on in. We do see this warmer air in the mid-Atlantic. on Monday, October 14th. But then we get our second cool down, aided by this ridge in the central and western states. And then as that moves on out, we start to see a kind of a pattern flip, like I was talking about. Colder than average in the northwest, still warmer than average in the southwest, but we still see much warmer than average temperatures in the east, and that is fairly persistent on this model. And this would be a pattern flip. However, at the end, it still shows the negative PNA signal. However, I do think this would flip. So that's the update for today.